Hey, welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your boy Mongo Slade, and today we're going to talk about a couple of different things from the Big E WWE 24. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. There is one thing, maybe two things that I want to talk about through this entire thing. But first, like, share, and subscribe. Use the hashtag 3Count Commentaries to bring attention to the channel. If you want to help your boy with his shawarma addiction, please do so by hitting me in the comment section below. There will be a link to Cash App where you can send cash. Help me get off of white bread and rice, please. Thank you. I've been eating too much of that shit, so it's time to move on. So there was something in this. There was a lot of stuff in this documentary that I thought was particularly interesting. I'm not going to go through his whole backstory. I've learned that the best way to do these documentary reviews is not to go blow by blow, but to pick out general ideas that I liked and just hit those notes. I'm going to skip over a lot of the stuff. I'm just going to talk about Big E and NXT, right? So Big E talks about going to FCW, and that he had the look and he had the passion because he was a wrestling fan. He was talking about he was a big WCW fan as a kid, but he didn't have any experience. He's a former football player. Injuries ended his football career. And so he's trying to come up with characters. And he came up with this character named Wendell. And I can tell you straight up, if he'd have did this character, he would not still be around today. Right? The idea for the character is that he would basically be Steve Urkel with muscles. Now, visibly, it would be striking. Right? You see this big hulking guy, and yet he's shrinking himself physically with his body language is, really sunk in. But, he's like Steve Urkel transforming into the Hulk. That was the general idea. And I was like, visually, that would be insane. It would be crazy, because you would think that gym rats, guys who are in the gym all the time, they're super confident about their muscles, they're super confident. But for you to have a guy who's kind of the opposite, who's still very shy and still very much of an introvert, which he says that he is. He says that he's really an introvert, and it's, a character that, when the lights come on, he becomes Big E, but he's really just kind of an introvert. So it seemed like this might have been a little bit more natural for him, but this would not have worked. It probably would have worked for a good month and a half, maybe. And then people would have gotten sick of it. I'm not going to lie to you. That Wendell thing would have fucking sucked. It would have sucked. But it was something okay that he was thinking about, right? Because it's interesting that he was adding layers to the character. He's thinking about a character that had more than one layer. So that means he had, way back in FCW, he had the right idea. He had the right idea of what kind of characters he wanted to portray. He wanted to portray a character that had more than one level. And that's actually was the theme of this entire presentation, is that Big E was trying to show people he has more than one level. That he was a wrestling fan, but he was also a football fan. He was a wrestler. He also liked playing football, also liked powerlifting, right? He likes all these different things. That he's both strong and smart and politically active and socially, aware and all that type of stuff too, right? He's trying to show you all these different angles of himself. And that's really what this character was trying to come from. This character was coming from him trying to show the different angles of himself. Showing layers. Being an onion. Showing layers. Now, this is particularly interesting because he starts talking about his WWE debut, right? When he comes up with John Cena and Dolph Ziggler. He comes up feuding with John Cena, with Dolph Ziggler and AJ Lee. And that his character is that he doesn't have a personality. He's just standing there being big, And he was talking about, being in two worlds, because he was still in NXT doing the Wild-Eyed 5 thing. And he was still doing 5, the King Kong Bundy gimmick. And he was still doing that in NXT, but when he would go up to Raw or SmackDown or whatever show he was on at the time, he was being emotionless. And he was talking about it was difficult for him to deal with that being in two different worlds. So again, we should be talking about the layers here, right? Talking about the layers of how he is forced to subdue himself for Raw. And he says basically that when he won the Intercontinental Championship, he was still uncomfortable. He was walking on eggshells and he wanted to show more personality, but it kept getting stifled. He kept saying, no, no, no. They kept telling him no. For 6 months, he was the Intercontinental Champion. They wouldn't let him show any real emotion. They wouldn't let him show his real personality. They wouldn't let him do anything. He's talking about how it shredded his confidence. Right? It really ruined his confidence. He really didn't know what to do, you know, because he was doing what they told him to do, but what they told him to do wasn't working. And then they wouldn't let him do what he wanted to do, you know? So with that base, when we get to the part where he starts talking about the criticisms, you know, when Booker T and Mark Henry were saying that he needed to be a little bit more serious when he went solo, and New Day was offended by this. Now, this is one of the things that, you know, whatever, you know, this is just a generational thing. But Big E and Xavier Woods, you know, was, I think, really good at making him feel confident that he was making the right decision and staying as New Day Big E. But what really won me over, 2 comments. Big E says, I've been here 12 years, 13 years. If I don't know what I'm doing by now, I shouldn't be here. Like, that was, I mean, that's pretty obvious, right? Like, if I don't know what I'm doing right now, if I don't know who I want to be, if I don't know what I want to present to the people right now, I shouldn't be here. And I think that's an excellent frame of mind. You know, if you're still fiddle fucking around 10 years later, then maybe you probably do need to go home. But what I did like more than that was Xavier Woods. Where Xavier Woods said, you want him to be serious. You want serious. Wait until something serious happens. Right? And that harkens back to the Wendell character. Because Wendell was supposed to be a nerd until something happens. Then he's going to flip. But that's really what they incorporated that idea into Big E's character now, except for the character is not a nerd in a general stereotypical Steve Urkel sense. The character is a big teddy bear, you know, that likes to have fun and, you know, gyrate, but then shit gets real. And he wants to, you know, put Sheamus through this car, you know. He wants to break Sami Zayn's hand. You know, he really wants to do some real damage to some guys he can. So he has this switch that, you know, when the heels flip that switch, he turns it on. That's when he gets serious. You know, and he had been thinking about this before. That's the thing that impressed me. It's not the fact that they came up with this general ass idea. It's the fact that it was actually seemingly planned years before. That he had this idea of portraying a character that had more than one layer. Of being multi-angled. Of having this character that could do 2 different things, 3 different things. And it just took him a long time to get there, but over time he started to add things to the character. That character went from being a nerd to being basically a silly homeboy to, you know, and that's something that's really, really fucking cool. That's fucking cool. You know, and I don't always agree with, you know, all of this stuff that New Day does with the pancakes and all that shit and the gyrating and the twerking. I'm not a fan of all that stuff. But it makes sense that if you want to disarm people, let people think that you're being silly, that you're not taking anything seriously. But then when you get started and something happens, and it just started, like my mind started flooding with all of these, especially the feud with Apollo Crews, when Apollo Crews just hauled off and smacked him that time, right? It's like you just started getting these ideas like, oh, I see it. I see it now. I see what they were trying to do. I see this character as if they were trying to present it. You know, Big E already has more of an edge than he used to have in New Day, right? He already has more of an edge than he used to have because he was never, you know, he was never alone at that point. Only occasionally was he alone. But since he went off on his own, he has had more moments of seriousness. Those shining moments of being a behemoth, of him doing really, bad things to people, having that ability. He was able to show that without Kofi and without Xavier, because now he has to tap into that root, that strength, that power, that layer. He had to tap into that more now. And I see it. And I gotta give these guys credit for it. This is some great shit, man. They planned this shit. Well, at least Big E did. He had a general idea of what he wanted to do years before he actually did it. So I wanted to say this documentary was bland to me, but that connection of being able to show multiple different layers, multiple different character angles, that stuff was beautiful for me. But there was another thing that I thought was pretty cool too. Because that's when he was in Cena's gym and he broke the bench press record. It's 575. Cena said, if you break the record, I'll make sure to get into the documentary, just to give people give them some motivation. And it wasn't just that he broke the record that was cool. It was that you saw all the people who are in that room was fucking cool, right? Xavier Woods was in that room. Roman Reigns was his spotter. The black dude who does commentary, I don't forget his name, Byron Saxton, he was there. Like, you had these guys, they've been together all this time, So it's like everybody knows what everybody is capable of because they've all been together for 10 years. Like, what was FCW was in 2011, 2012? Something like that, 2011, 2012? Because NXT showed up in 2012, so it was probably, 2010, 2011? These guys have been together for 10 years in the same locker room. They know what each other are capable of. That's a different level of camaraderie. And that's really what I liked about it. Is when you see those guys are in there, they really want Big E to break this record. They really want Big E to break this record. And Roman's there, and he's giving them these words of encouragement as he's struggling to get that weight up. And Cena feels like, an outsider. Because it seems like everybody is friends in there except Cena. Cena's like the only guy in the room that's kind of like, all right, guys, that's great. Got to give Big E credit. This is Ettore. Great job. Great job, man. That's fantastic. Big stuff. Great job. It's kind of like everybody else is like, patting him on the back, grabbing him and stuff. Cena's like, good job, man. Clapping like a robot. Good job. Good job. Great job. Fantastic. Just kind of like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Like, why are you so awkward around other people? Anyway, I thought that was fucking sweet. And I think if you connect that with when he won the Intercontinental title again, and how everybody was congratulating him, and how New Day was thrilled about it, and how, Shinsuke and Jey Uso, and even Vince got up, and we almost saw Vince McMahon wearing a mask. Almost. He had like a gator on around his neck. So that means he was at least wearing it at one point. Almost during this entire pandemic, we have not seen Vince McMahon wearing a mask. Ever. I love him for it. Because he's been in everything. And this is the first time I've seen anything near a mask on Vince McMahon's face. So I love it. I love it. Vince doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't sell anything, bro. He was not going to get caught on camera with a mask. Awesome. But if you look at that stuff, you look at the camaraderie. So it's not just New Day. Like, New Day are just like his closest friends. But when you look at how they talked about Brody Lee, how Brody Lee made him feel confident after his match with Seth. Because after he was failed as the Intercontinental Champion, partially due to the company telling him not to show any personality, and him doing what they told him to do, and yet it still wasn't working. He went out there, had this match with Seth, and Brody Lee made him feel great afterwards, telling him, hey, you didn't just go out there and show everybody what you can do. You showed the company, the office, what you can do. You did a great job or whatever. The camaraderie of all of those guys was fucking awesome to see. It was awesome to see. And that's really the Big E story is, You know, him being him being in this system where he's able to show multiple angles of himself, and being, you know, in this big, loving, I guess you want to call it a loving environment. It's not the Shark Tank anymore. You know, like the locker room isn't the Shark Tank anymore. These guys spend years together now. You know, so these, like I said, these guys have been together for 10 years. You know, these guys have been multiple WrestleManias together, Raws and SmackDowns. These guys are not transient. You know, like back in the days, used to be transient guys. Guys come in for a couple of weeks, couple of months. He in and he out. You know, but now these dudes are homesteading. They're in Florida for fucking months together. You know, so it's a completely different level of respect, completely different level of understanding. And I think that's where you see the generational gaps. When you saw Mark Henry and Booker T basically saying he needs to be more serious. It's like other people already knew what they were trying to do, you know, because they've been in the locker room with him all this time. Well, Booker T and Mark Henry hadn't really, I mean, Mark Henry had kind of been in there, kind of, and Booker T had, a little bit. But those dudes knew, you know, and that's why they were so offended, because they were like, you know, butt out, you know, we got our thing. We know what we're doing here. We know how to help this guy get to the next level, you know, and I can appreciate that more now. I don't exactly agree with it, but I appreciate it more now. I had a better appreciation for Big E coming out of this situation. He's a good guy. You know, he's a good dude. I don't agree with him politically, but that didn't make him a bad person, you know. So this was really cool. Check it out if you got time. If you don't care and you expected a blow by blow review, sorry. I'm trying to do less of those because those things tend to be very, very long. But this was a very decent documentary. It was fun to watch. You know, it was like I said, it was a little bland, but you know, I learned a lot about him. I learned a lot about the process. So it was fun. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for your time. You know, if you want to help me with my shawarma addiction, hit me in the comment section below. And which would be the Cash App. If you just want to support the channel by spreading the good word of 3Con Commentaries, you can do that by utilizing the hashtag 3Con Commentaries. And thank you guys for your time. And I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace.